my stitchy friends. Here we are back for a Pollinator SAL video. My name is Laura. You found Lullaby Stitches, and I'm so glad you're here with me. It has come. This is the last segment, the last part. Our SAL has been the blue flowers in praise of pollinators. And we have bounced all over the board and have now come to our last corner with our last sweet pollinator. So first let me show you where we are. See if I can do it without dumping all the contents out. It's been so delightful, hasn't it? While I'm excited to have this finished, I'm also a little saddened. It's been such a journey. So last month was our sweet bat, and we learned oodles about bats. I got a little deep into it, but that's the fun. And when you only have one little guy to talk about, you can go a little bit more in depth. Today's last little pollinator is our Scarlett Honeycreeper up at the top, our sweet little Hawaiian bird. All right, as always, I've got my sheet of information, so we'll start learning a little bit here. So the Scarlet Hawaiian Honeycreeper. I'm going to try to pronounce the Hawaiian name for it because that seems appropriate, but please forgive any inaccuracies. I don't mean to be offensive at all. I looked up the pronunciation, so I'll put that here. E-E-V, which is spelled I''I''W''I, E-E-V, or the Scarlet Hawaiian Honeycreeper. They are on average 6 inches long. They're not a giant bird, but they're not a small bird. They're right in the middle there. They are nectar eating. And I forgot to put my numbers, so I'm going to do a little bit of scanning to try to find the order here. They are native to the Hawaiian Islands. That is their home. They live in forests above 4,500 feet, so higher elevations, and there are a few reasons for this. Yeah, we'll talk about this in a minute. They are common to abundant on the islands Maui and Hawaii. They are very rare at this point on Kauai, and extinct or extremely rare on the remaining islands. They unfortunately have undergone a series of threats recently in the last 30 years or so. But we'll get to that in a minute. First, let's talk about their little lives. So, the mating season is from January through June and often produces about 2 to 3 eggs. They incubate for 14 days, and then 24 days after that, those little babies leave the nests and live their lives. And I'm just going to mark off what I've said so I don't repeat. As I mentioned, they are nectar-eating birds. They have long, curved beaks that help them get into cone-shaped flowers and blooms, and the beaks start out when they are young, brown, and as they mature and age, the beaks gradually brighten to a lovely peach color, which is so neat. So the bird that will stitch has an orange beak, so he's somewhere in the middle, I would guess, of that maturation of, yeah, anyway. Let's see. They migrate seasonally throughout the island chain. visiting various flower communities as they go, and consuming on average about 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of nectar a day, which is a lot for a small bird. That's a substantial amount of nectar. Hungry little guys. They are loud, raucous, and often a little aggressive with other birds in the area of their nectar sources. They're sassy birds. I think that makes sense. They're cute. They were once one of the most common forest birds in the Hawaiian Islands. Now, unfortunately, they are considered threatened. They were officially put on the endangered species list at the level of threatened in 2017. Unfortunately, they're highly susceptible to something called avian malaria. It's contracted through mosquito bites, and 90% of birds, of honeycreepers, die once they get this malaria. It just kicks their trash, unfortunately. And that's had a huge impact on their population as the world warms, on average more. They're having to come further down in elevation for food sources, not just as the earth warms, but also as invasive flowering species kind of take the place of their native plant species. The two things combined are causing these sweet birds to come lower in elevation, which unfortunately is also where the mosquitoes thrive. And so they are unintentionally putting themselves in harm's way to feed. They're also hunted by invasive animal species such as cats, rats, and the mongoose. So all of these kind of invasive things coming in, changing the ecosystem and changing the balance of things has really affected their population. Thankfully, they are on the endangered species list, so they are being monitored and conservation efforts are in order. Are happening. They are in order. That broke my brain for a minute. So some of the things that scientists are trying to do is reduce the non-native plant impact. So they're trying to remove the invasive plant species that are taking the place of the plants that these birds rely on, and replacing them instead with native flowering plants. They're also trying to do this, something I thought was interesting, to get them out of the reach of those nasty little skeeters. They are focusing their replanting efforts at higher elevations in hopes of keeping these birds out of the reach of that avian malaria, where they're not only vulnerable to the disease lower elevations, but also those other critters that are not native to the Hawaiian Islands that like to hunt them. So, because cats and rats and critters are going to stay down where their food sources are more than they're going to climb up into the mountains and the forests. Yeah, so that's good. They, we do what we can, right? As we become aware, we make the changes, and hopefully that will reduce, if not eliminate. I don't know that we can eliminate at this point, but reduce certainly the negative impacts on their ecosystems. You should YouTube the bird song for the Scarlett Honeycreeper. It's really sweet. They have quite the little chatter, and from what I understand, and this could be part of the reason they consume as much nectar as they do, but they are constantly in motion. They're kind of like a hummingbird in that way, and a few of our other pollinators, as we've learned, where they're constantly moving from bloom to bloom, and very, very busy little creatures, and so they need their fuel. But they also, something I thought was so cute is that they chatter as they move around. So they're a very present source of the forest song in the Hawaiian Islands. So, not a lot. That's probably one of my shortest little informational tidbits, but where we don't have thousands of species to pull from, there's just a simpler source of everything. So that came out weird. Oh, that's fine. Anyways, they're so sweet. They're so pretty. And it's interesting. I had a few conversations early on about how this cute little red bird, which really appears pretty red in the picture, wound up, the floss is rather more orange. But really, as I've looked up the pictures for this video, this beautiful bird is a scarlet. It is an orange-red. And a neat thing, I think it was on the back. Where was that? Oh, historically, Native Hawaiians would adorn their capes, their ceremonial capes, with capes. Is that the right word? Yeah, with the feathers made from, with feathers from Scarlett Honeycreepers, and they were highly valued because the color is so beautiful. And yeah, I think that's really neat. I tried to find more without spending hours researching. I'll probably go do some more once I'm done because I think it's very interesting. But most of the sites I was on their focus was conservation and more just a conversation about the species itself. But I would love to go in and do more research on, how the Native people viewed, because obviously, even in just the little blurb I found, they had their place in Hawaiian culture as well. And I think that's beautiful when the people that inhabit an area are in touch with the other creatures of the area. And I think that's something that I've taken from this stitch-along and my research, is to be more aware of my locale's pollinators specifically, but also just the other living creatures around here, and to appreciate their presence as well as their impact on the area and so on my life, because I'm here as well. So I just think it's beautiful how nature can be so brutal. Like life, right? It can be so brutal, and it can be so violent even at times. But when we look at nature, there's an order for things. There's a reason for that, and in turn, it is so harmonious and beautiful, and everything plays its part, and so do we, right? We can be harmonious with our homes and our places and our community, and it doesn't mean that how do I say this? It doesn't mean that we have to be that perfect Instagram picture, right? The social media creates this illusion of, there's just this picture, this fake picture in social media that is entertaining. It can definitely be entertaining, and it has its place, I suppose. But I feel like in our personal lives, for the average human, we don't live that Instagram picture. And usually, at least for me, when I post a beautiful sunset or something, it is often a simple moment of beauty rather than a staged moment of beauty. Does that make sense? So I'm rambling a bit here, but I just feel, I don't know, this kind of peaceful satisfaction that as I've done my research, there's always something that the normal human can do, the normal person can do to connect and conserve and appreciate. Because that's really what it comes down to. Conservation comes down to that. On top of having this massive effect on our ecosystems, we can really just connect and appreciate things that if they leave, will leave a hole. They'll leave a hole. Something will shift with their loss. And so conservation has found this value in preserving these beautiful creatures, sometimes these crittery creatures in the beetles and the bugs, and into the beautiful birds and fuzzy creatures, and I don't know, it's wonderful. There's so much to be hopeful for, and I don't know, maybe I'm just nerding out here, but I think it's wonderful. And I'm grateful for a beautiful pattern that kind of spiraled into this bigger experience. It's not what I had thought I would come out of it with, honestly, but I'm grateful for it, and I've so enjoyed it. And I've so enjoyed sharing this time with you and seeing your beautiful stitching and everybody's little twists on it. It's been magic. So thank you so much for joining me. We'll do another stitch along sometime. I don't know when or what it will be, but when the right pattern hits, we'll dive in again. So until we meet again, my sweet stitchy friends, happy stitching, take care of yourselves, spread kindness, and maybe take a little moment for those little critters that make our world go round.